Hey, Todd Daniele here, and today we're going to look at 3D Studio Max 2024, and we're going to talk about the Smart Extrude feature, and specifically something that I had requested during beta a couple years ago, and I'd like to think I played a part in getting this into Studio Max. It's actually the ability to make a floating object, attach a previous object to it, and then use that floater as like a boolean without using a boolean modifier, where you use Smart Extrude to push the object through the surface of another and do a negative boolean. So I like to call it the secret boolean, and we're going to take a look at that. I hope you're excited. This is something I haven't seen anyone show. So let's get started. I'm just going to show you what I did, which is made a simple plane, did some extrusions, had a center line. Made a keyhole shape by moving some verts. I added a shell and a taper to it. And I'm just going to collapse that down. It's going to be an edit mesh, and we're going to make it an edit poly. I'm also going to change the object color just so you can see a little better as I'm working. And this will be the base for our first example. So what I want to do is make like a circular cutout in here. And you could do traditional Boolean and remesh with retopology, but I feel like if I keep it low poly, I can get some nice topology, and it will require some cleanup, but I kind of like the results better. So I'm just simply doing cylinder, turning on auto grid so it'll snap on the surface here. And what I'm going to do is make sure I'm active on this layer, draw it out, extrude it up. I'm going to give it only one height segment. You'll see why in a couple seconds, and 8 segments so that if we work with 4s and 8s, usually an 8-sided circle will give you a good result if you divide. It's also easier to kind of make it work within the mesh. So just something I like to do. I think that's commonly done by a lot of people. So anyway, we grab this mesh, and now if we attach the new one, that's what I was calling a floater. This pink one is a floater because it's not attached in any way. Even now, it's not one element. Okay, but if we grab this polygon, and you've seen videos where people grab the bottom face and push it through and it attaches and melts this together. We don't want to do that. We want to make a hole in this mesh. So if we take the top face, hold down shift, and just simply push it through the bottom, we get a Boolean cut of sorts. And with that, because it is in a way a Boolean, it's not a perfect cut. There's some things that need cleanup. And I just wanted to put that disclaimer. This is not perfect way to do it, but I think for simple geo like this, the cleanup time is relatively quick and you get a good result. So there's my disclaimer. You can see these verts don't always line up with everything, so I'm just going to do some target welding. I'm going to target weld this to this, this to this, this to this, and this to this. And then we have some verts that still are not attached, so I'm just simply going to do a swift loop like that. I'm going to P-connect, connect this, Same thing on the top and bottom verts. They're not connected to anything, so I'm just going to simply do this and this. Okay, we have a 5-sider, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. So in that quick a time, we have a cutout. If we go to vertex, we want to check the bottom here. You could see you get some stray verts. We're going to use symmetry on this particular example. You would have to do the same to the bottom if you're not going to use symmetry. So if you'd have like something else that you were doing this to, there would be cleanup. Okay, so I'm going to control and backspace. You can see it kind of removed an edge on that one. I don't like that. So that's just like a learning a technique. So instead of doing the backspace, I'm going to hit target weld and take this vert and target weld it to there. And you can see the line did not disappear this time. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay. And then let's just try this. If I do a polygon selection and I double click, I clicked first, I'm going to control double click the next one, see if I get a full circle selection, which I do. If you didn't, that means that there's some verts that may need welding. Okay. And now the thing is, we need support loops if we're going to divide this, because if we divide it right now, it'll be really soft. Let's do that actually. Open subdiv. And you can see, well, the bottom is a mess, but the top we have a vert here that's not welded, and you can see it just doesn't look good. So that's the next step. I'm going to do an edge selection, see if I can get a loop. So can I get a loop? I can. It looks like there's double edges here, and that's a result of what we did. That's not a perfect technique. So I'm going to just grab this. There's 3 here, but there's 7. So I'm going to say weld, right? And I'm going to do the same thing here. There's 2 there, 2 there. So these all are doubled up for some reason. So let's just grab them all and weld them, okay? And let's see what we get now when we open subdiv. You can see if we disregard the bottom faces, it's a pretty clean result. So the note I need to make is that if you did the cylinder and you didn't have back faces on here, it would be like a golf cup, like a cup for a golf ball. This cylinder would come down if we had no faces, and it would just come down to a cap, which may or may not be what you want, but for it to really effectively feel like a Boolean, you need the second side. You can always delete these faces. Like right now, if I wanted to, I could delete them. So let's do that. I'm going to just go to polygon level, grab some, I'm going to remove some, delete. Okay, so now if I go to open subdiv, that's much cleaner, and we could add symmetry top to bottom and get a nice result. But the thing you see is, again, it's really soft right here. If I turn it up one more iteration. Now you could, well, open subdiv, you could crease those edges. But if you wanted to do this traditionally, you want a support loop, you could try Swift loop, but because of the way I laid it out, we don't have a perfect loop around, but there's a solution for that. So polygon, I did the same thing, control click to get the ring selection. And then we can go to extrude, local normal, zero it out. I right click the bottom arrow to zero it out, click it a few times or even drag it and say okay. And you can see that gave me a support loop right here, which helps. It's now tighter, it looks better. And then finally, if you wanted to, you could add a support loop right there. And you can see I have a nice cutout, right? So with that, you can also come in here and do symmetry, right? And we're going to turn off X, Y flip, and we could turn on Z if we wanted to, okay? And the weld we'll leave where it is, and then just turn on open subdiv and see what we get. And you can see we have clean cutout. That's pretty clean on both sides. The geo looks good. We have a 5-sider there. By simply like tying this off to a different vert, it would have been all 4s, but then you wouldn't be able to do a ring selection on these polygons in this this middle area here. So it's a trade-off. You can go till your heart's content and clean it up further. But you could see like right there, that looks pretty cool. I'm going to do a couple more support loops just to make the shape a little more interesting. So I'm going to just do this, and let's see if we do that. All right, it's clean. Let's do one more just to make it a little more hard surface feeling like that. And now we'll get like a nice, nice bevel there. So that's a cool shape. So in the next section, I'm going to just take that, and we saw a circular cutout, which is pretty easy to do even by general standardized modeling techniques. We're going to put a square in here as well. So that's the next step. Okay, so I just cloned that object out. I took the open subdiv off, and I think I'm going to leave the symmetry on and maybe just collapse it for this example. So we have, what we see on top and the bottom is the same. And then we're going to just make a box, and we're going to make that box 1 by 1 by 1 segment. But we're going to put it right here, and I'm purposely not going to make it line up with these 4 perfectly because that would be too simple, right? So I'm going to come a little past the edges, extrude it up, make it 1, 1, 1. And let's go to the top. I'm just going to try to eye it up that it's sort of centered. You can see I'm kind of like not falling on the verts exactly, which is what I want to show the technique. Okay, and we're going to take this object, and what we're going to do is attach this one, and then we're going to do the same thing we did before. Grab this polygon and shift and drag it right through the body of that, and we have a cutout. It's again going to be dirty, which it is, but we can fix it. So what we want to do, I'm not sure that sewing is going to work, but let's try that first. So P connect, and let's go from this one to this one. You can see it just will not do that. So what I'm going to do is grab these faces. That's all of them. Delete them. Let's see if I have any stray verts. I don't think I do. The vert count looks the same at the top and the bottom. So I'm going to do border select, and I'm going to just say bridge. And we have that. We could say this too. So we're bridging, right? We could say 2 and by smooth. You could actually, let's do that. I was going to say you could make them slide a bit, but we're going to do that just like this. So edge selection, grab it, shift and X for edge constraint, move it up, move it down. And that's supporting edges that we need for the curves, like the bevel right here. We also need one the other way, but what we're going to first do is do some welding and some cleanup. So P connect this vert to that vert. Same thing on the other side. And then down here, I think what I want to do is just target weld that. So, or maybe not. That would cause an issue if we target weld this. We'll have polygons here. So let's just do P connect from the corner to the corner. And it's all quads right now. So same thing. If you wanted to, you could go around and cut a support edge around this, but I think in this case, I have these faces selected right now. I'm going to just say extrude, local normal, right click it to zero it out. Give a little bit, just like that. And now if we add the open subdiv again, go to iterations to 2, we now have clean circular cut and a clean square cut. You can tighten up these edges. Again, this is low poly for the time being, just to show you that it does work as a technique. And it's, I mean, that's a pretty nice looking mesh for what we just did relatively quickly. I know you're saying I could do that just by modeling it. You can, but this is just another thing in your arsenal. So let me just, now that we have these two examples, say that you could do it with a spline, like a star shape, more complex shapes. The requirement for cleanup will be greater, and you have to weigh that out. But you could do lettering, anything you like. It's just a matter of how dedicated to cleanup you are. And obviously, if you needed lettering on something like this and you had a dense enough mesh, this may be a good way to do it. You could also do shape merge with splines, like make a word, shape merge it onto a dense mesh, and then clean that up. So just options in your arsenal. So with that said, I'm going to go out of this layer and into another layer where I have my little animated guy from the intro and show you a couple things. So this slightly different edge flow is actually a little prettier than the one I just did, but you get the same idea. It worked. What didn't work? What didn't work is I used a cube, much like I did here, but it had 9 by 9, 9 segments, like a tic-tac-toe board, and I pulled it through. And if you try to clean that up, you could see there's all kinds of artifacts. There are edges with inside faces and edges that overlap. It does not work well. So simple geo that's going to turn out clean, these are pretty nice results in my opinion. Geo like this, where you need like holes and extrusions at the same time, may use a different approach. But in a few minutes, probably a little longer than I should, I know these get long-winded, we showed that you can do this secret Boolean by simply floating an object, attaching it, shift dragging through, and with minor cleanup, get a mesh that's a pretty mesh for me. I mean, there's people making nicer stuff, but for a few minutes work, that's pretty cool. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. Sorry I was away for a little while. I haven't been able to record anything. I've been busy with work. I'm back right now, so hopefully I get a couple of these out for you. And if you like the content, please like and subscribe. And if you really liked it and found it helpful, you can always buy me a coffee. There's a link below in the description. Thanks so much. I'm Todd Daniele, and I'll see you in the next video.